I have Maxim, who is president, co-founder of Tier-Dott. I met Maxim somewhere in 2018, just around the time when Dot raised over 20 million, and from then on, every conversation that I've been having, it's been great, and been a massive supporter for everything that I do and that we do. So, thank you so much for that, and thank you so much for coming.
Pleasure. Thank you.
I don't think you need an intro, so we'll skip that part. We'll dive straight into why micromobility. Why did you get into micromobility?
So I've not had a car for the last 15 years. Actually, I've been living in big cities, always use a bike. And I always thought, okay, why are not more people using bikes? It's super enjoyable, keeps you healthy. It's a super nice way to move in the city. Often it's the most efficient way, actually. And so even if I was not working in mobility, I was always interested in that topic. And so when I finished my previous startup, which was not mine, but I did work for e-commerce startup, I started to look what I wanted to do next. And it was a time when there was this great invention, which was to use or leverage IoT to put connected locks on bikes and enable people just with a smartphone to easily unlock a bike on the street. So these were the times of OFO, Mobike, basically the Chinese bike sharing operators that really launched the free-floating shared mobility wave. And so at the time, I decided to join OFO, which was a major Chinese bike sharing operator, and help them to get their business right in Europe. And so it was a big mess, this company. But I found a few things. So one is that when we were launching bikes on the streets, which for me, the first launch I ever did was in Berlin with the OFO yellow bikes. It was incredible to see that right away people were starting to use the bikes, downloading the app without any advertising. So clearly there was a product market fit. You didn't need to push. It was natural. People were seeing the value of it. And then in the same time, within OFO, I could see also all the things you should not do to succeed in micromobility. So I had this kind of free learning where I was paid. And the things that you should not do is bad hardware. It's very costly.
Yeah.
You should monetize, you should make money, otherwise also you cannot be profitable, you lose a lot of money. You used to collaborate with cities, if not you get a very big public backlash. And so anyway, I had this very intense 4 or 5 months learning at OFO. And after that, seeing that OFO had very big financial problems, we offered with Henry, with my co-founder, we went to Beijing and we discussed with the founder of OFO, and we told him, okay, you have two options. One is we do a spin-off of the OFO European entity, and we will find some local investors in Europe. It will be a management buyout, and maybe we can make it work. You will be a minority shareholder, but at least you will have a company that is valuable. Or you keep your majority share, and most likely it's going to be zero inter value in 2 months because basically you're almost bankrupt. And that's the choice. What do you choose? So he said, well, I prefer to stay actually in control. I want to keep the control. So he said, okay, it's probably not going to work, but we respect your choice. And because we knew obviously the company would get bankrupt, so then we decided, okay, then why don't we do it by ourselves? And that was the beginning with Henry and with a couple of people that joined us. And we said, okay, let's create a European player specialized in shared micromobility, which would take all the learnings of what not to do from OFO and try really to build shared micromobility in a responsible way from a financial standpoint, from a social standpoint, from an environmental standpoint. And that's why we started very conservative, I would say also, compared to some other operators, going city by city. We started actually in Brussels,
Yeah,
and that was
yeah.
our first city.
That's
Doing all operations in-house, so we could really control the model and then replicating in more cities.
Sure. So the learnings from OFO, did that push you into picking the right hardware when you launched? Because if you remember 2018,
Yeah.
every operator had a specific model, the ES4s, right? You came up with a completely different one, right?
Yes.
So it's like off the shelf versus something really robust, right?
Yeah, so actually at the time when we started the company, I went to China and I was really looking because I knew hardware was important. I was, okay, we cannot use the e-scooters that at the time actually were from Segway, but were made for the consumer market and not for the shared market, and were very flimsy. And so we said, okay, we cannot use that. It's going to be stolen. It's only going to last 2-3 months. That's not possible. We cannot make money with that. To be clear, now we work with Ninebot because they've improved a little bit. But the thing is that, so then we said, okay, we have to find something else. So we started to look, and at the time, I don't know if the founder is here, but there was a company called Quickwheel actually.
They're here.
They're here. Yeah, I don't know if they are here, but anyway, they designed specifically a scooter that was made for shared micromobility, which had bigger wheels, had a larger deck, had this crazy thing which is a handbrake, which did not exist at the time. It was only a button. And we said, okay, that's great. Let's do that. And so we started with this scooter actually in Brussels. The users loved it because it was much more robust. So even if we started like number 10, we arrived after everyone else in Paris or in Brussels, we got the users because the hardware felt much more safe and much more robust. But we still had a massive issues. The IoT was not working at all, so we had to restart a new PCBA, replaced all the IoTs. There was a problem with the stem also, so we had to remove all the fleet, or disassemble, reinforce the stem, put it back. So transforming our warehouses in factories, but somehow we survived. Yeah.
So the narrative at that time that scooters last only for 30 days. You remember the very popular article, right? 28 days.
Yeah.
It did not apply for you, right? I mean, I remember.
No, this scooter, even if it was a first generation and quite. It was not amazing. It was a fixed battery also. Actually, we operated it for, I believe, 5 years.
Wow. Okay.
The last years were in Poland, actually, which was cheaper to operate, but we kept maintaining it. Actually, the user experience was, I remember riding it in Warsaw, I think 2 years ago, and it was still great, the experience. Wow. It was a light scooter. It was quite nice to ride, actually. Yeah.
I remember it very well because that was the first set of scooters that showed up in my street in Brussels. So I remember it very well. When you got started, right, there was enough capital, right? So if you look at Voy, Tier, Lime, Bird, they went on to raise a lot of money, right? I mean, Bird went on to raise, I think, 1.5 billion. But Dott took a different approach, right? So you raised 20 million, but then your fundraising was like smaller numbers. Not that you cannot raise funds. I mean, Henry is like very well connected. So, I mean, not that you cannot raise funds, right? So, but you took a slow approach, right? Was it a conscious choice? What is the idea behind it? Right? Looking back, it's kind of like, you knew exactly this is going to play out. But
the first year, what I used to say is that our goal is not to be the first, but to be the last. And what we meant by that is that we had seen what happened with OFO and Mobike, and when you go too fast, usually also with hardware that is not ready, maybe your operational model is also not yet optimized. Well, you just lose a lot of money very quickly. And so it's better to be a bit slower, really make sure you perfect your hardware, your operational model, maybe get some licenses to protect your markets, and then scale. And so we took very consciously this disciplined growth approach and not this blitzscaling approach, which we had realized was for sure a recipe, or most likely a recipe for failure. Yeah.
Absolutely. I still remember.
But just to comment on that, it's still hard because we didn't want to be too small also, because then you are relevant. You cannot, you don't get the licenses. You are relevant. and not too quick. So we were trying to balance the speed.
There was a point in time where Y was growing really fast, racing pretty fast. Other companies as well. I mean, Tier was doing racing really fast, growing very fast as well, right? I think Y raised something, I think maybe like 100 or 200 million with close to $1 billion valuation at that time. And what was very interesting to watch is that Dott was still, not to the scale of, say, Tier or other companies, right?
Yeah.
And I was talking to somebody in the industry, and they were like, "Hey, I mean, the line was like, global in Europe. There's Tier, why they're going to dominate. Dott, you can forget it. I mean, they're not racing enough. They're not growing fast enough, right? But looking back, you took the slow approach, and then finally, I mean, I know that when I talk to you or Henry, you would still say that it's a merger, but I kind of look at it as a takeover of a bigger entity, right? How did that play out? I mean, did you really think that this would happen at some point? The slow approach of being grounded, and then let one of them spend a lot of money, build a market, and then probably acquire them at some point. Was this in your thought before?
Yeah. So. I think it's about 2 years ago now. So we started to realize that we were a little bit subscale.
Yeah.
And it was hard for us to both reach profitability and be able to finance I would say the R&D at the level that you need to be really to compete basically in the market from a tender perspective and from a user perspective. And in the same time, the money was drying. So obviously, there had been all these, Bird, and I think maybe it happened after I gone bankrupt. There was basically nobody wanted to invest much anymore in this space, and so we thought, okay, we need to scale, but we cannot really raise much more money at this point, so we cannot use the organic way, and so. To grow, we probably need to use the M&A way, so inorganic growth. And so we started to look, and we talked to a lot of our competitors, so in Europe, but also in the US. And at the beginning, we were thinking actually to more like do a deal with a smaller company because it was more digestible for us. But then there was this opportunity with Tier, which came. And Tier at the time was losing a lot of money, had significant debts, and so was looking for some kind of deal. And when we started the discussion, actually, we didn't believe that it was something for us. We thought, okay, it's too big, losing too much money, it's like super risky. Why would we get into that? But what we realized is actually that there was some big rationale to do this deal because if we were doing it, we were basically becoming the biggest European operator, so sort of European champion in shared micromobility. So we are getting the size we were thinking about. Two, we saw that there could be a lot of synergies between the two companies because we are using more or less the same hardware from Okai and Nanbot. And we did not have too many city overlap, so not too many dis-synergies. And so we thought, okay, if we merge, actually, we could move everything into one single platform, which happened to be Dott. Whether it was a subjective or objective decision, but nevertheless, the Dott platform actually was much cheaper to run for similar type of performance or high performance. And so doing that basically with all the synergies that happen that are not easy, we talk about synergies, but in the end it's also about people. We thought, okay, we could bring actually the two companies into a profitable company post-merger.
Got it. But you would still maintain that it's a merger, not an acquisition.
I don't know. I think from a leadership perspective, it is true that it is the Dott leadership that prevail, and also the Dott stack,
the brand.
And the Dott brand, So true. You could, but from a financial perspective, it's definitely a merger.
Got it. So there were a couple of funds. So I mean, it was a time when capital wasn't available, right? Not easily available. And there were a couple of funds who came. Sofina was one of them. White Star, a couple of them that came together, and they financed that deal, right?
Yeah.
And what was their perspective about the market, and why did they put that money at that point of time? What did they see that others did not see?
I think they just saw that it was this opportunity to create a European champion in shared micromobility.
Yep.
So what I like to call a sort of Airbus of shared micromobility that could compete against Lime, which is the Boeing of the American Boeing of shared micromobility. That could become profitable because of this thing that moving actually, which is counterintuitive to the smaller platform, right? But which costs a lot less. And it was also the opportunity to possibly create a player that would further consolidate the market. And I think that made the story interesting for basically what was relatively a small investment from compared to everything that was invested before for this deal.
When the deal happened, I think around that time we were chatting, and I was telling you that the speed at which this merger will complete, that's going to define a lot of things. And I was skeptical how fast it's
I remember you were.
Yeah, I know. But I was skeptical because it's like two different companies, two different cultures.
Yeah.
Even hardware is like there's probably a couple of overlaps, but then completely different. Even the culture is different, right? The way it is built, and bringing these two companies is not easy. Right.
No.
But you did that in record time, much better than I expected.
Yeah.
Right? It was very fast.
Better than I expected also.
Yeah, I mean, you told me that as well. Yeah, much better than you expected. How did you do that? Because it's not easy, right? And this is the first time you're, doing such a massive M&A, right?
Yeah, to be honest, I'd never done it, so I was also a little bit anxious about it. The funny thing is our investors said, well, you probably need to bring external expertise, and so we started to talk to external specialists of that, which cost a lot of money, and come to your company and basically pilot the integration. But then we started to talk, okay, we are not sure, and the reality is we are all entrepreneurs, right? So we are kind of used actually to make this big move, big change, big thing. We are not afraid of this. And so then we thought, okay, maybe actually we can do it ourselves. It sounds a bit risky, and then maybe just like one guy who can review a little bit our plans and provide us some input if we forget something. So we decided to do it our own. So that was the first thing. The second thing is we are very clear, as you mentioned, that successful merger integration need to happen in a short amount of time, because otherwise you stay in this in-between stage where the integration is not completed, so because of that you cannot build new things, and it drags forever. And so even if it's hard, we said, okay, we need to complete this integration within 6 months. And so we announced it to the team. We said, okay, in 6 months, the integration needs to be fully completed. We said also, we need something that is simple and that we can build on for the future. So we need to have only one brand eventually, one platform, one app that we are going to use. So we decided, okay, we have to move everything. So all the tier users, tier cities, tier fleet from tier platform to the Dott platform. And so that's how, obviously there was a whole plan around that. There was someone managing the plan and internally and so on. But we said, okay, that's what we are going to do. And so we have been, basically, we told the whole organization for the next 6 months, that's all, basically, that's our single priority is to complete that. Obviously, the trade-off was that, while some of our competitors, like I see Ride here, Tobias, Voi and so on, were actively building, and improving the product, we could not do that. So we lost a little bit of time, but we thought, okay, overall, it's more important, because we are going to get all these synergies, we are going to build a much stronger company, and after we'll be able to build again and catch up.
And if you look at Tier at that time, I think in terms of employee count, they were much bigger, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I used to be a developer as well. I mean, I was a CTO as well. Anything that you build, you're super attached to it.
Yeah.
That being taken away, it's not easy.
No.
Right. So bringing these teams together and then saying that, hey, it's going to be Dott stack, which has less vehicles. It wasn't. I don't think it's an easy thing to do, right?
No.
How did that play out? By the way, I also remember that it was the same point where you brought in a new CTO. Vikas came into the company, right? Yeah. Was that intentional, saying, let's bring in somebody that is not emotionally attached to either of the platforms, let him decide what's best, and,
Yeah, it was part of it. I mean, we did not on our side actually have a strong CTO. We had a good engineering team, but not a strong CTO for what we need to do.
Yeah.
And on the tier side, there was actually a great CTO, but he was not actually motivated to be part of the future story because of exactly what you said also. And so that's why we brought a new CTO who is really great and actually brought this kind of neutral view. And the advantage of this is that he brought, I think, this new vision about technology, not thinking tier, not thinking dot. And I think he was really able to motivate at least the people that wanted to stay to be part of this kind of adventure. Actually, it's a great technology project also actually to do a migration.
Yeah.
And after to start building based on this this new stack.
So it wasn't a soft approach where let's compare what's best, let's pick what's best from each other. It's not that approach. It was a hard approach to say, hey, let's stick with dot stack and let's move.
Yeah, I mean we made some analysis, but once we made the decision, which was even before we closed the deal. No, then it was clear. It was like, this is the decision, this is the rationale. We are going for it. There's no discussion. This is it. And it's basically either you are in or you can decide to vote with your feet.
Well, I was talking to Vikas and he told me that hey, if you're doing M&A of the scale, bring in somebody external who's like emotionally not attached to both the companies. So you're not gonna hurt anybody's feelings because you're gonna be like absolutely rational. Right?
But I think I see also that there's some I think former tier members here also, but they could comment. But I think what we brought when we did this merge and started to communicate was a new direction. I think Tier had been a bit in financial trouble. And so had been a bit struggling. The future was not clear. There were all these M&A talks and so on. So when we came in, at least there was clarity. Maybe it was not ideal because synergies means also a lot of people being dismissed in the process. I think it was about 400 people that got dismissed. So it's difficult. But at least there was a clear direction. We are going to do this. The integration will take 6 months. And I think for people who wanted to stay and believed in that story, I think it was actually a great adventure also.
So when the deal was announced, I think it was like early 2024, right?
End of March 2024.
There were some investments made, and was there a set of, let's call it like, KPIs or something that you had to reach before end of the year, or was there a time period where you had to reach a certain KPIs? If there were, did you reach all of them, and how did it go?
Well, our main KPI was exactly this, was the integration completed. That was our top goal, so that checked, like we did it. The other KPI, frankly speaking, was around profitability. So we had all these synergies that we wanted to deliver. We pretty much delivered them. The thing that I think was a little bit more impactful than what we would have hoped for is the user migration itself. So in the process of the migration, from Tier to Dott, we definitely lost some users in the process, but we think overall the trade-off of moving to one single platform and rebuilding on the back of it is still worth this loss.
So post migration, after the entire merger is done, what's the size of the company? Just for us to know. I mean, I don't know if you can disclose, but if you can.
No, it has been communicated. So I don't know if we communicated officially, but let's say
in terms of number of vehicles. So
it's about 200,000 vehicles.
Okay.
And we did about 100 million rides last year.
Oh, wow.
So
Great.
we operate in about 400 cities in 23 markets, I believe now.
Okay. In terms of hardware, I mean, I know that you put a lot of emphasis on hardware. I know that there was a point where you were also trying to build hardware. Everybody, they tried to build hardware. I mean, Bird was trying to build their own. But after some point, the market shifted to a point where every operator kind of said, "Hey, I mean, trying to build a hardware or investing in R&D of that doesn't make any sense. Let's leave it to the professionals, say Segway or other companies who can do it better and has a large R&D team." Would you still stick to that fact, or are you in the camp of, say, Lime and Bolt, for example, where they say they take pride in their success linked to their own hardware, I mean, their own custom hardware, right? Where do you stand in that hardware debate, or?
I'm still thinking about it, but 7 years later. What is sure is that hardware is critical for this business.
Yeah.
It drives unit economics.
Yeah.
It drives your profitability. It drives the user experience. It drives your ability to win tenders. It also drives your ability to reduce prices so that you can increase your market. So it's really important or critical for shared micromobility. Now, do you do it yourself because of that or not? So instinctively in the past, I would say, well, yeah, you need to eventually master it yourself, like Lime did, because it's so important, right? Then the problem is actually like designing a good product is actually really hard, especially when you don't have the means for it. You don't have maybe the ecosystem around you to do it well. And so that's why our point of view shifted, and we decided as Tier-Dott actually to really rely on specialized, I would say, OEMs or manufacturers to do that, whether it's Ninebot, whether it's Navi, whether it's Quickwheel. We believe that they have actually the knowledge, the network, the ecosystem to much faster actually develop these products and hopefully deliver a product that is actually better than what we would be able to do it by ourselves.
Got it. In terms of the hardware lifespan, so we started with 28 days. I mean, everybody remembers the 28-day, the article, right? The scooters last for only 28 days, and then every year, right? It's been improving. Initially it was like 2 years, and then 4 years, 5 years. I was talking to somebody who said, no, I mean, the frames actually last for 10 years, right? Yeah. So if the frame lasts for 10 years, we would consider that the vehicle is actually, has a lifespan of 10 years. Yeah. Where do you stand today? I mean, I know that you do an amazing report every year, right? Calculating lifespan. Where do you stand today?
So yes, I mean, first, the duration of the hardware is actually quite long. We still have generation 1 scooters actually that are operating, so 6 years later. And actually, we believe so much in that we have set up a refurbishing facility in Poland where we send scooters or bikes in the future. After a couple of years, they are disassembled, repainted, reassemble, we change some parts, and then they are good to go for whatever 4 more years, and they look nice also for the users, so that you can see basically an increase of ridership also, which is great. The only thing is that the thing which we need to balance is that the new hardware also improves so much in terms of battery autonomy, in terms of reduction of repairs. That there's a point where, unfortunately, the older hardware is much less competitive against, let's say, a ride that comes with brand new scooters. And also, it costs a lot more to operate, even if you refurbish it. So we have to find this balance where I would say, idealistically, for me, I'm very attached to environmental impacts. So you want to keep the hardware as long as possible. And licenses actually help for that because they create a bit more protected market where a new player cannot just come in with the shiny new hardware. And in the same time, where it's competitive, you need probably to bring the newer hardware to both increase your profitability and be able to compete against Lime, against whoever has a better hardware.
So is it fair to say that we are still like around 7 years, 10 years range for the hardware in terms of lifespan?
Yeah, I mean, for us, 60% of our fleet today is more than 5 years.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Which is good and bad.
Yeah. Yeah, we look
It's hard to. But good in terms, like I'm proud of it, in terms of environmental impact, and bad because it creates challenge on the competitive side and profitability side.
Yeah, we'll get to that. So this is something that not a lot of people are talking about. So I don't know if Martin is here. I want him to look into this. Martin from Brussels City, for people who don't know. So previously, when it was like true free floating, right? When somebody's opening the app, it was about what's the nearest available scooter. So availability drove user choice.
Yeah.
But now, if you go to Brussels, I mean, there's so many parking bays. I mean, it's good in a way that it's all properly arranged.
I don't think there's enough actually.
Yeah, that's
I
not
think there is
enough.
more.
Yeah, we need more. I'm with you. I mean, we should take at least one car parking out from every street. I would do that. But if you look at Brussels, when you go to a parking bay, it's like walking into a supermarket or a showroom, right? Now you have a choice, right? You have like multiple choices, and I think users pick the best looking scooter, right, or the cleanest scooter, right? From that point of view, operators are kind of like pushed to renew the fleet. For example, if a competitor would drop in the latest scooter, right, you would be pushed to renew a fleet and put a new scooter as well, right?
Yeah.
How do you see this? Because it doesn't. It's not a sustainable thing to do. I mean, replacing scooters every year or every 2 years in a city.
Yeah,
right?
honestly, I don't have exactly the right answer, but I think this one maybe needs to be solved more from the city or the regulatory standpoint, because I think if the cities insist more, for instance, that as part of their licenses, that the hardware, for instance, should not be changed for a couple of years. I think this will help basically reduce this problem that you mentioned, right?
But it's hard to enforce.
But after, it depends. I mean, there's also user stickiness. So if you are price competitive and you still offer a good service overall, even I think with an older scooter, you can still compete from my point of view. For instance, in Brussels, typically, like we have actually I think we are leading or co-leading the market probably with Dime, and we do it with much older hardware. So I think it's also about how do you manage availability of the fleet, the passes, the user experience, and them being just being loyal customers for a long time. So you can still defend yourself, but it's not easy.
But do you think price really drives user adoption? I mean, especially in a city like Brussels or Oslo and the top tier cities, do you think pricing a few cents lower than the competitor drives, especially for pay as you go, not the passes, right? For pay as you go, do you think users would pick a scooter because it's like 2 cents less?
I think it does actually. I think it does. It does in the sense that it drives repeat usage. And if you have to pay whatever €4 every ride, probably there are some people that will be okay to spend that money because they're well off. But for most people, it will be too expensive to use it multiple times a day.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's when actually getting closer to public transport type of price actually is the real key to grow basically massively this market, and that's where, by the way, hardware again has a role, right? Because the cheaper to operate hardware, the less basically you can charge, and the more you can increase basically the market size.
In terms of growth, so
just to finish on that, I still believe we are still at the beginning, because I think as an industry we are still too expensive for people.
And
so if we can reduce by half the cost of operating our fleets, basically, then I think we can really more than double actually the market. I think it's, I think we could potentially triple or quadruple the market.
You partially answered my next question. So if you look at Lime, they grew 30% last year. I think Voi also grew double-digit percentage last year. Where do you see the next biggest unlock? Price is one thing, compressing the price, getting more users in, that's cool. But, what other things that you're looking at?
So I think maybe there's 3 points for it. So one is pricing. I think the more we drive down costs with hardware, but it's also leveraging AI and all these things, basically the more users. or the market potential. Two is availability. So
Yeah.
And availability for me, it's parking mainly. I mean, okay, we need to reposition fleets, we need to have enough big fleets and so on, but it's parking.
Yep.
And the higher the density of parking in the cities, I really believe the more the success. Why are London and Paris successful today for e-bikes? Because it's so easy to park.
Yeah.
It's super easy to park. In Paris, you have 15,000 parking spots.
Wow.
Because basically we can leverage basically the private bike parking spots as well as the dedicated shared bike parking spot. So you have about, I think, 2,000 dedicated bike parking spots, and you have the rest, whatever, 15,000 is basically for individual use. It's amazing, I think, for the users. And in London, well, it's not regulated, so you can pretty much park anywhere, I think. So, so it works also. But the point is, parking density is really key. Sometimes I say, actually, we are a parking business. We are not a shared micromobility business because we all depend basically on this parking. And so it's great to have like a lot of people also here that offer, like these parking docks. I don't believe really in docks, but I believe in recharging parking infrastructure, like with Stand AB. I saw there were a few Italian, I forgot the name, Docky, I think.
Z Plus.
And some other people. But I believe that actually in high traffic areas, it's great. It makes it orderly. You can park, no lock, just put it and you go. And so I think this hybrid thing where high traffic, there's this parking infrastructure, and then it's no parking or just some painting is right. But we need density, and I think the third to unlock is to make it super easy to use. And so I believe in the future, obviously with public transport integration in the apps, and also on maybe getting rid of the phone thing. I don't know.
You would really get rid of the app?
Maybe visual recognition. I don't know what GDPR compliant. I don't know. But where you just go on the bike, it recognizes you. You run. You ride.
Would you look at geographical expansion as an unlock? The reason why I'm asking is, like, if you look at the global players, Lime is still a global player. They have a global presence. Bird used to be, and they had to retract from markets. But none of the European players managed to expand internationally. Right? When I say internationally, going to the Americas or Asia, right?
We're in the Middle East.
Sorry?
We're in the Middle East.
Oh yeah, I know. But not for example South Korea or US, right? Do you think you have a path to get to that scale, or do you think we will have just one global player and a couple of regional players? How do you see this market panning out?
I think there's space for at least a second global player. Which I hope will emerge from Europe. And I hope we might be part of it. But
you might be, or you are. You will be. I mean,
I don't think we are yet. I think you are still, much smaller than Lime. But I think there's space. And I think it could be that there's a sort of a consolidation happening globally, and that might create this other global player that can challenge Lime.
Okay. Why are you positive on micromobility today? Shared micromobility specifically. Why are you positive?
I'm positive because when I look first at all the sort of mega trends, I talk a lot to cities. All the cities in Europe, especially, but I think it's true even worldwide, want less cars in cities. So they are building all these cycling lanes. This parking infrastructure for small mobility, reducing the speed of cars. So that's one. Two is that there's definitely this move to electrical vehicles. That's a given. I think there's no way back. Basically, we are going for it. Three, I think there's really this trend of people wanting to own less. Because they want the flexibility, they don't want to take care of the maintenance, they don't want to worry about theft, and I think this means that they prefer to use mobility services than having their own vehicle. And I think I mean there could be more, but I think just these three mega trends.
Yeah.
I think we continue to fuel the industry growth, no matter the hiccups of profitability, bankruptcies, over-regulation, and all these things. I think all in time, basically, all these basically disappear because these mega trends are much stronger and are driven by politics, by people wanting that, basically.
So, I mean, yesterday when I was opening the show, I was talking about hope. I mean, this year is about hope, right? Giving hope for investors, builders, and cities, right? And that's when I talk to people, when I was talking to people yesterday at the after party and also here, they kind of have a sense that the market is kind of back, right? So that's good to see. If you, I mean, because this is my last question. So, what?
Okay, it needs to be really good, my answer. No?
It's going to be a good one. So, what's your message to builders, cities, and investors?
Wow.
That's a profound question.
I've done relatively well till now. Well, I think just look at London. I think it's crazy. It's 2 years ago, or maybe 3 years ago, like almost nobody was, using shared micromobility.
Yeah.
And now, I don't know the latest figures, but I think it's more or less 40, 50 million rise. I would say a year, like just in 2 years, right?
Yeah.
And you go to London, you see everyone using it. Everyone loves it. It's like the most efficient way to move in the city, the quickest, the most enjoyable.
Yeah.
And why it happened is because there was a situation, basically a lack of regulation and so on. But it happened, and it shows that like if the regulation is right, like people love it, And I think we have now the right hardware also to do it, which can make it also profitable. And so I really believe that the future is really every city is going to have shared micromobility. Many people will want to use it because good hardware, cheaper prices, good parking infrastructure, and I think it's just it will be one of the great mobility industries of the future. I really believe that.
Yeah, I would.
Because what else in cities? I mean, what other ways of transport? I mean, it's not going to be cars for sure. Public transport, yes, but everyone knows that it's not the most enjoyable way to move in the cities, at least for short to mid-distance trips. So what else? Then it's either private mobility, but we know that not that many people, necessarily want to take the risk to have their e-bike stolen or whatever, and then it's us.
Yeah,
I think we're the future.
Absolutely. I mean, I would keep this conversation going, but we just ran out of time. You are an inspiration for a lot of people in the audience and for me as well. And it's always a pleasure talking to you. And thank you so much for everything that you are doing for the industry and being an inspiration.
It's a great pleasure. And if I may, I want to take the opportunity to thank you also, Prabin. You took over this micromobility event. I think you made it great in Brussels. It's a great success. I really enjoyed also, I think, meeting the sort of micromobility family yesterday and today. So because of you, I think you have given us new energy. So thank you.
Thank you for all the support. Maxim Romain, everybody.